Okay, I literally have this camera hanging from the chandelier right now. Anyway, so this is a really big week for us. We have our first release coming out on February 1st. We have launched our first single, Lovesick, with CD Baby. We've never done this before, so I don't know. Technically, it's supposed to come out February 1st, but I have no idea what that means. Does that mean it's gonna come out on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Prime? Every place online that can stream music is where it's supposed to end up, but whether or not it will reach each of those venues on February 1st, I still don't know. I haven't actually received an official answer. I know that you're supposed to give it a full month. We didn't give it that amount of time, so it's looking like it's on schedule, but I really won't know anything until the actual day. So as far as I'm concerned, it's coming out on February 1st. We're learning as we go. This is our very first release, and part of the fun of it is it's been a real learning process. Signed up with ASCAP, all of us. We're all listed on the track as songwriters. I ordered some t-shirts with the artwork, which I'm also going to premiere this week. And there'll be some t-shirt contests that you guys can enter. Some pretty cool artwork. So I don't know, I think it'll make a great shirt. So who's excited? I am. We're actually gonna have a song on iTunes, or Spotify, which is pretty cool. So one of the things I think I should talk about today is the band name. When Danny and Mitch and I first played together earlier in the summer, we got together originally to play a radio show on WATD. Tom Hardy, a musician in town, was the founding father of the inaugural Porch Fest in Hull. And to promote that, he had a spot on WATD. And he asked me if I wanted to do some of my songs. They were looking for some original music and one of the local musicians to feature. And I said yes, because I've been in this mode of operating right now where if there's some musical opportunity that presents itself to me and it seems in line with what I want to do and I feel good about it, even if I'm nervous or scared or I don't quite know how I'm going to make it work, I say yes. And that was one of those times. I knew that I didn't want to do it solo. I had no idea who I was going to play with, but I knew I wanted to do it. So Mitch was the first person I thought of. He lives right across the street from me. He's a good friend of mine. He's a great bassist, and he and I had been kind of jamming with some other people in town, and I said, you know, would you be interested in doing these songs with me on the radio? And he said, well, send me the songs. So I sent him the songs, and he was like, yeah. So he and I first played here together, running through the songs, and then Danny came on board. He and I ran into each other at the carnival with our kids, and he said, how's the music stuff going? And I said, good. I got to do this radio show, and the next thing you know, I sent him the songs and he was on board. So I'll never forget, like after the first rehearsal or two, well, it was the first rehearsal that I felt this way, but I think it took maybe a couple rehearsals until I actually came up with a name. But when I first heard these songs being played by Mitch and Danny, I couldn't help but feel like this, sort of this overwhelming feeling of like, well, I was really impressed. But also, having only ever played these songs with one other musician, Elon Meller, who's an amazing pianist and also brought so much to the music, I was really awakened to this idea that, like, I don't know why I hadn't fully realized it before, but every time you take a piece of music and you play it with a different musician, it takes on like a whole nother feel. I just was really like, you know, between what Elon had brought to the songs and playing it with these guys, it was so different. And I just sort of came to this realization that the musicians, and in particular in this scenario, since these were the guys that I was going forward with, this was the group, that they were bringing almost like it's like a magical process. So let me see if I can articulate it. The name that I came up with was The Alloys. And it came to mind because my great-grandfather started a foundry in Wollaston. a steel foundry, and it was a family business for a number of generations. And growing up with my father working in that industry, I didn't know too much about it, but what I did know was that an alloy is a material that's made up of other metals or elements that come together to make a new material, an alloy, which is an improvement. So the alloy might be stronger or more resistant to corrosion, or better under heat, or whatever the circumstances were. You could make this alloy that would fit the need and also be almost like a superpower over what everything that had gone into it could have done on its own. And that's how I felt about sort of what musicians bring in terms of their creativity and their individuality into the music that they play, but specifically in that instance, playing with Mitch and Danny. And so I came up with this idea of, I had been Lindsey Buck and the Alloys, and that's kind of how we came up with that name. And it just seemed to really fit at least my emotional response to playing with them. And it stuck around, and here we are. It's February. Well, no, it's the last week of January, and we're releasing our first single. And I think it was last week, while I was away from my phone, there was some band texts that went around. We had kind of kicked around the idea of dropping the Alloys, and then there actually was a point where we kicked around the idea of dropping the Lindsey Buck and just becoming the Alloys. But last week, there is another band called the Alloys out there, and I think that having the release so present there in our immediate future, and I was designing the artwork and putting in the band name, that Mitch and Danny and Don, through a series of texts, agreed to drop the Alloys. And now our show is Lindsey Buck, which I have mixed feelings about, because I don't know if it really articulates like what everybody's bringing to the music in the same way. I'm fine with it in terms of a marketing thing, but I feel like it doesn't really capture how we function as a band. I mean, being the singer-songwriter, I can understand that would be the name of our project, as other people have done it that way, but I guess I just don't know, I'm not 100% sold on it, I gotta say. But our first single is being released as Lindsey Buck. And that is what the artwork shows, and that is how it's being released, for better or for worse. But no one should forget or overlook the musicians and contributing songwriters that they are to making the music what it is. It wouldn't be what it is without Mitch and Danny and Don. So I struggle with that. I feel like it kind of makes me seem like I'm some kind of egomaniac. I worry that it takes away from everybody's contribution and level of importance. But it is what it is. So we're moving forward. For now, that's how we'll be billed, and I'll keep you updated if anything changes. There's always growing pains when things change. I have a way of liking things to stay the same, but I also know that I'm really trying to keep moving forward and keep momentum, and I'm trying to grow beyond my comfort zone in every way that I can, especially related to music. Even my brother commented recently that the vlog is indicating to him that I'm evolving, because it's so far from anything I've ever been known to do before. Anyways, that's the story on the name change.
Did we want to start
and on the release. So tomorrow I will show the artwork. Tomorrow my goal is to come up with some kind of t-shirt contest for anyone who's interested. We can compete for t-shirts and get everybody excited about the release.
Are they going to be tank tops? Boom!
Yes, there's going to be women's tank tops, but no men tank tops. You know, you could wear a women's tank top.
I could wear a women's tank top. Just ask everybody if they have their tickets for the gun show.
All right, so there you have it. Stay tuned. Lovesick coming out February 1st to a music streaming service near you.